You know that moment? I mean, we all know it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's that feeling where your chest suddenly tightens up, like there are these bands of steel just wrapping around your ribs.
Yeah, and your jaw locks up.
Right. Your jaw locks so hard, your teeth actually ache. And it's usually because something incredibly small just happened in the grand scheme of things.
It's never the big stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's always something minor.
Exactly. Like maybe it was a text message that was just a little too brief, or an offhand comment in a meeting.
Or even just a specific look from someone you care about.
Yes, just a look.
Yeah.
And in that split second, you are suddenly you are not in control anymore. You just react.
You're hijacked.
You snap, you say something you instantly regret, or, maybe you go the other way and completely shut down. You just turn to ice.
The total freeze response.
Yeah.
And then later, usually when you're lying in bed staring at the ceiling and everything has finally cooled down, you ask yourself that same frustrating question.
Why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep doing this? It is so universal, but the aftermath is just incredibly frustrating.
It really is. And the conventional wisdom, like the advice society has been handing down for generations on how to handle that exact visceral spike, it's usually some variation of practice discipline.
Oh, right. The whole think before you speak thing.
Exactly. Think before you speak. Take a deep breath. Count to 10.
Just count 10. Which, honestly, when you are in the middle of that chest-tightening rage, counting to 10 feels completely out of touch with what your body is actually going through.
It's practically insulting.
It is. You aren't operating in a state where counting numbers hold, like any power over the adrenaline flooding your system.
Because what that conventional advice does is it treats our emotions like they're misbehaving children that just need to be put in a timeout.
Right, just quiet them down.
Yeah, just quiet down. It assumes this fundamental split between you and your feelings. Like if you just exert enough brute force willpower, you can just shove the emotion back in its box.
Which never actually works long term.
It never works. And that's exactly why we are doing this deep dive today. We're going to unpack the source material of the architecture of emotional agency.
Yes, and I am so excited for this one.
Me too. Because the mission today is to look at how modern neuroscience has entirely dismantled that old model. We are not here to learn how to suppress feelings.
Right. We aren't trying to become better at locking them away.
No, because that framing is exactly why most people never actually improve their emotional baseline. They're trying to solve the completely wrong problem.
So what are we doing instead?
We are here to talk about redesigning the architecture of how we feel.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if treating emotions like misbehaving kids is the wrong approach, and if the whole count to 10 and exercise willpower strategy is fundamentally flawed, we have to figure out what the right problem actually is.
Well, the right problem begins with throwing out a century of psychological dogma.
A whole century.
Pretty much, yeah. We have to throw out our basic assumption of what an emotion actually is. And to do that, we look at the groundbreaking work of psychologist Lisa Feldman Barrett out of Northeastern University.
Her work is fascinating.
It really is. Her research over the last couple of decades has completely reshaped our understanding of the brain's mechanics. Because the long-standing theory, the one that feels intuitively correct to all of us because it matches our lived experience, is that emotions are reactions.
Right. The world does something and you react.
Exactly. You see a bear, you feel fear, you get insulted, you feel angry. Action, then reaction.
I mean, that makes total sense on a surface level. It's just cause and effect. The world acts upon me, and my feelings are the involuntary reaction to that stimulus.
It feels completely true. We all experience it that way. But according to Barrett's neuroscience research, it is entirely backward.
Backward.
Entirely. Emotions are not reactions to the world, they are predictions.
Wait, predictions? Like the brain is trying to get ahead of the moment?
It is constantly trying to get ahead of the moment. Just think about the physical reality of the brain for a second.
Okay.
It does not sit around waiting for something to happen and then, leisurely decide how to feel about it. Your brain is locked inside a dark, silent skull.
Right, it doesn't have windows.
Exactly. No windows. It has no direct access to the outside world. It only has sensory data coming in through your eyes, your ears, your body.
Like light waves and air pressure changes.
Right. Just chemical signals and physical sensations. So to keep you alive and efficient, it constantly runs simulations.
Simulations of what's happening outside.
Yes. It takes your past experiences, your current physical state, and whatever cues it can gather from your environment, and it generates an emotion before you have even consciously processed the event.
So wait, so if I snap at a coworker for a passive-aggressive email, My brain predicted I should be angry before I even fully read the words on the screen.
Yes, that's exactly it. Your brain saw the sender's name in your inbox, recognized the time of day, factored in that you haven't eaten since breakfast.
Oh, wow.
And it cross-referenced all of that with a past memory of this specific person undermining you in a meeting 3 months ago.
That is wild.
And it instantly simulated a state of threat.
Mm.
So what you consciously register in that moment as feeling angry or anxious, it's actually just your brain's best guess about what is about to happen next.
So it's preparing me.
Exactly. It's predicting what biological resources you are going to need to survive that next moment. It is preemptively armoring you up.
It's like an aggressive autocorrect.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Like the brain is trying to guess to the end of the sentence before the event is even fully typed out.
Yes.
And sometimes it gets it spectacularly wrong and inserts a totally inappropriate emotion based on old data. Like when your phone autocorrects to something completely unhinged.
Right, exactly. And if we follow that autocorrect analogy to its logical conclusion, it changes everything about how we approach our own minds.
How so?
Well, if emotions are just predictions, if they are these biological autocorrects built on past data and current physical states, then the path to emotional regulation cannot be suppression.
Because it's already happened.
Right. You can't just fight the feeling once it's already there. That would be like yelling at your phone screen after the autocorrected message has already been sent.
Which I think we've all done, but it doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. You can't change the message by yelling at the screen. You have to go into the settings and update the prediction dictionary.
We have to update the algorithm itself.
Precisely.
And according to the source material, rewriting that code happens across 3 distinct layers. Because we aren't just dealing with the mind in a vacuum, right? We are looking at a full architecture.
A complete system.
And the very first line of code we have to change starts with the language we use in the exact millisecond we get triggered.
Which brings us to the first tool in building emotional agency, what psychologists call affect labeling.
Affect label.
Yeah, it's the linguistic layer of the architecture. And the text notes that this sounds almost embarrassingly simple.
I mean, it kind of does sound simple.
It does, which is exactly why people tend to dismiss it before giving it a real try. But the biological mechanics behind it are profound. Affect labeling is basically the practice of naming what you are feeling with incredibly high specificity.
Okay, so when that coworker's email comes in and the chest tightens up, the first move is linguistic.
Yes.
But what is actually happening in the brain when we put a word to a feeling? Like biologically?
So there is a massive biological tug of war happening during an emotional spike. When you get triggered, your limbic system, which is the primitive emotional threat detection center of your brain, it essentially hits the panic button.
It just fires off.
Right. It starts flooding your prefrontal cortex with signals. Now, the prefrontal cortex is your brain's executive suite.
That's the logical part, right?
Exactly. It handles reason, nuance, perspective, long-term thinking, all the mature stuff. But during a trigger, the limbic system just completely overwhelms the executive suite.
It's too loud.
The emotion is so loud and the chemical flood is so intense that reason literally gets drowned out. The two regions are basically struggling to work together.
It's like a computer freezing up.
Perfect analogy.
Like, you know when a background process is suddenly demanding 100% of the CPU?
Oh, yeah, and the fans are spinning.
The fans are spinning, the screen is locked, and nothing I click is responding because the system is just completely overwhelmed by one massive task.
Exactly. And how do you force a frozen computer to respond?
I hit Control-Alt-Delete.
Right.
I force the task manager to open so I can see what's actually running, interrupt the system freeze, and, take back control of the operating system.
Affect labeling is the brain's equivalent of hitting Control-Alt-Delete.
Wow.
Yeah, studies published in the journal Psychological Science actually show that when you name what you are feeling with specificity, the emotional intensity measurably drops.
Just from naming it.
Just from naming it. By translating a raw, primitive, visceral feeling into a structured linguistic concept, you are forcing the task manager, the prefrontal cortex, to re-engage.
Because it has to search for the word.
Exactly. The brain has to use its executive function to search for the right word.
But wait, doesn't just saying I'm angry do that? I mean, we all generally know when we are mad or sad. We use those labels all the time, and people still fly off the handle.
And this is where the concept of emotional granularity becomes critical.
Emotional granularity.
Yeah. The text emphasizes that words like bad, stressed, or even just angry are way too vague. There are low-definition data.
Like a blurry photo.
Right. The brain doesn't know what to do with bad. To truly get the prefrontal cortex back online and shift the brain's prediction model, you need high-definition data.
So what does high definition look like in this context?
Instead of saying, I feel angry, you pause and realize, I feel overlooked,
Oh.
or I feel embarrassed, or powerless, or overstimulated.
There is a massive difference between those. Like, angry makes me want to draft a hostile reply and just burn a bridge.
Exactly. It's a blunt instrument.
But overlooked, that makes me realize my ego is just bruised because I wasn't credited for a project, which requires a completely different type of conversation.
A much more constructive one.
Yeah, and overstimulated might just mean the office is too loud and I need to put on my noise-canceling headphones. It has nothing to do with the email.
When you name it specifically, which is a practice in neuroscience, sometimes called name it to tame it, your brain receives a very clear signal that the threat is being processed, not suppressed.
Processed, not suppressed. I like that.
Because if you fight the emotion, the limbic system actually pushes back harder. It thinks you are ignoring a survival threat.
It's like, hey, pay attention, there's a bear.
Exactly. But when you label it with high granularity, you are telling the limbic system, I see the threat. I have categorized it. We are handling it. And the alarm bells start to quiet down.
You're turning a blurry, terrifying monster in the shadows into a very specific, manageable object under a bright spotlight. It just loses its generalized power.
It really does. And the tangible, real-world benefits of this are just incredible. The source text points out that people with high emotional granularity, people who have built a rich emotional vocabulary and actually use it in real time under stress, they're statistically less likely to turn to alcohol in response to stress.
Really?
Yeah, they exhibit lower levels of physical aggression, and they recover much faster from setbacks.
Well, because they aren't drowning in a vague sea of, I feel terrible and I need it to stop.
Right. They know exactly what kind of terrible it is.
If you know you are feeling unsupported rather than just mad, you can actually solve the problem of being unsupported.
Exactly. The language re-engages the reasoning mind. It stops the limbic flood. But hitting Control-Alt-Delete only stops the computer from crashing in that specific moment.
Right. It doesn't fix the virus?
No, it doesn't solve the underlying bug in the software that caused the crash in the first place. So once your prefrontal cortex is back online and you have your wits about you, it actually has a job to do.
Right. Okay. So the feeling is named. The intense heat in the chest has dialed down a bit, but I'm still sitting there staring at the email. The external event still happened. What then?
This is where the architecture moves from the linguistic layer to the narrative layer.
A narrative layer.
Yeah. Once reason is engaged, it has to interrogate the story we are automatically telling ourselves about that event. And the text explores a truly uncanny convergence here between ancient Stoic philosophy and modern cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT.
That is such a fascinating crossover. Let's look at the ancient roots first. The text brings up Epictetus. And we are talking about a guy who was a slave in the Roman Empire, someone who endured immense physical and psychological hardship, and who eventually became one of the most influential Stoic philosophers of the ancient world.
His background is so important to this.
Right, because his entire philosophical system was built on a very strict, uncompromising divide between what is up to us and what is not up to us.
And given his background as a former slave, he understood better than anyone that almost nothing in the external world is up to us.
Yeah.
External events, other people's behavior, the economy, what someone says to you in an email, none of that is under your control. But your interpretation of those events, the response you choose, the values you hold, that is completely up to us.
I mean, it sounds profound in a philosophy classroom, but applying that when your blood is boiling is incredibly hard.
It's the hardest thing in the world.
When someone insults you, it feels like they caused your anger. The brain instantly maps it as cause and effect. Event equals emotion.
But breaking that illusion of direct cause and effect is exactly what Epictetus was trying to do. And it is exactly what modern psychology finally caught up to.
Fast forward to the 1960s, right?
Yep. Fast forward to the 1960s, and a psychiatrist named Aaron Beck essentially rediscovered Epictetus's rule. Beck was the founder of cognitive behavioral therapy.
Which is still huge today.
It remains one of the most rigorously evidence-backed psychological frameworks in existence. Beck formalized this into what he called the cognitive model.
The cognitive model.
And the core tenet of the cognitive model is this: events do not cause emotions. Thoughts about events cause emotions.
That is the crux of the whole narrative layer. Between the text message arriving on my phone and my chest tightening, there is a hidden step.
Always.
There is always a thought, a story my brain tells to make sense of the event. And it happens so fast, we usually don't even notice it.
It happens in milliseconds. But the most crucial part of this entire deep dive is realizing that the story your brain defaults to is not fixed reality. It is an editable narrative.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because, wait, if we are editing the story to change how we feel,
Yeah.
like if I get fired from my job and my brain starts editing the story to say, losing my job is actually a beautiful, brilliant opportunity for growth. I'm so lucky this happened. Isn't that just toxic positivity?
That's a very common pushback.
Because it sounds like we are just lying to ourselves to avoid feeling bad. Like we're putting a smiley face sticker over a check engine light.
I love that analogy, but that is a vital distinction to make. Cognitive reappraisal, which is the clinical term for this, is absolutely not denial, and it is not toxic positivity.
Okay, how are they different?
Toxic positivity is an attempt to suppress negative reality by pasting a fake, unearned optimism over it. It is fundamentally dishonest.
It's just lying.
It is. Cognitive reappraisal is the opposite. It is about rigorous, honest inquiry.
So what does that inquiry actually look like when you are staring down a real-world problem?
It's pausing that editable story happening in your mind and interrogating it like a scientist. Instead of just accepting the brain's first catastrophic prediction as gospel truth, you ask specific questions.
Like what?
Like, is this the only way to view this situation?
Yeah.
Or what will this moment actually mean to me in 5 years? Or even, what would a mentor I deeply respect see in this situation that my stressed out brain might be missing right now?
Oh, I see. It's not about making a bad thing magically good. It's about ensuring your interpretation of the event is actually accurate and not just a worst-case scenario hallucinated by a brain that is trying to protect you.
Exactly. Let's use an example.
Okay, if my boss sends a short, unsmiling message that just says, "See me in my office at 4 p.m."
The dreaded 4 p.m. message.
Right. The event itself is just words on a screen. But the default story my brain tells might be, I'm getting fired, I'm going to lose my house, my career is over.
And the emotion that instantly follows is sheer panic.
Toxic positivity would be saying she's probably calling me in to double my salary, which is completely delusional.
Right, and it leaves you totally unprepared for reality.
Right.
But cognitive reappraisal is stepping back and asking, is getting fired the only factual interpretation of see me at 4 p.m.?
Right. What else could it be?
Well, she also sends short emails when she is rushing between back-to-back meetings.
Yeah, or she might just want a status update on the Q3 project.
Exactly. Have I done anything fireable recently? No.
So you are deliberately considering alternative evidence-based interpretations of the event before committing to the massive emotional response that the first automatic interpretation generated.
You are holding the default story up to the light and looking for the cracks in it. And going back to Barrett's theory of emotions as predictions, by changing the narrative data you are feeding the brain, you force it to predict a different emotional state.
Wow. Instead of absolute panic, maybe you just feel a state of mild, alert curiosity. You are prepared, but you aren't terrified.
And when we connect this to the broader picture of long-term well-being, the data is staggering.
The text points to research by James Gross, right, at Stanford.
Yes. James Gross has spent years studying emotion regulation. And his findings show that people who habitually use cognitive reappraisal as opposed to people who just suppress their feelings or let them run wild, they report higher overall well-being.
That makes sense.
They have stronger interpersonal relationships and significantly lower rates of depression and anxiety.
Well, because they aren't constantly riding the roller coaster of their brain's worst-case predictions, they have inserted a circuit breaker between the event and the emotional response.
Exactly. And it's crucial to note that they achieve this higher well-being not because they feel less.
They aren't numbing themselves out.
No, they aren't turning into unfeeling robots. They experience the full spectrum of human emotion, but they feel with agency.
Agency.
They are active participants in the construction of their emotional lives, rather than just being passive victims of whatever their limbic system decides to throw at them.
So we have updated the software, we've used the linguistic tool of effect labeling to reboot the task manager, and we've used the narrative tool of cognitive reappraisal to rewrite the faulty code of the story.
Right.
But, and I have to push back here, I've tried this. I've tried interrogating my thoughts, and it works wonderfully on a Tuesday morning after a good weekend.
Sure.
But if I try to use cognitive reappraisal on a Friday afternoon after a 60-hour work week and terrible sleep, my brain just laughs at me.
It just doesn't work.
The logic Completely fails. The most brilliant cognitive strategies in the world collapse if the machine running them is broken.
You have hit on the exact reason why so much conventional self-help advice fails people. It focuses entirely on the mind, on the software, and completely skips the hardware,
The body.
the body. Which brings us to the third layer of the framework, the physical architecture.
Because Epictetus himself couldn't stop me from snapping at a rude barista if I'm running on 3 hours of sleep and 5 cups of coffee.
Oh, definitely not.
The philosophy just goes out the window when the biology is failing.
And Lisa Feldman-Barrett's research completely validates that experience. She introduces a concept called body budgeting, or allostasis.
Body budgeting.
To understand this, we have to look at what the brain is actually doing all day long. We like to think the brain's most important job is thinking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, solving problems, writing emails, having conversations.
But its primary, massive, constantly running background task is managing your body's physiological resources. It is constantly monitoring and balancing your water levels, oxygen, glucose, salt, and hormones.
It's essentially a biological accountant running a massively complex ledger.
A ledger that must stay balanced for you to survive.
Yeah.
So when your body budget is in a deficit, meaning you are sleep deprived, dehydrated, completely sedentary, or carrying chronic physical stress, your brain realizes it is running critically low on fuel.
Okay.
And because we established that emotions are predictions designed to keep you alive, what kind of predictions do you think a fuel-starved brain starts making?
Catastrophic ones. Because if it knows it doesn't have the energy to fight off an actual threat or handle a complex problem, it probably assumes everything is a quit just to be safe. It becomes hypervigilant.
Precisely. When the body budget is in deficit, your emotional predictions become dramatically worse. They become highly reactive, negative, and cynical. You literally perceive the world differently.
Wow.
You interpret neutral facial expressions as angry. You interpret minor inconveniences as major deliberate attacks. And the text makes a vital point here that brings a lot of relief, I think.
What's that?
When you are in this state, your irritability is not a character flaw. It is a fuel shortage.
That reframing alone is huge. It's not that I am a fundamentally impatient, irritable, bad person. It's that trying to use cognitive reappraisal on severe sleep deprivation is literally like trying to run the newest, most complex smartphone operating system on a battery that's stuck at 1%.
The hardware just can't do it.
The phone is going to dim the screen, shut down background apps, and eventually crash. It physically cannot run the software.
And this is why the text argues that the most unsexy, basic emotional regulation advice is often the most powerful. We all want a secret mental trick or a philosophical breakthrough, but the foundation of emotional agency is brutally, unavoidably physical.
So let's look at the specific data highlighted in the text regarding these physical constraints, starting with sleep. Because the idea that skipping sleep makes you cranky is obviously not new.
No, it's pretty universal.
But I imagine the neuroscience put some pretty stark numbers on it.
The biological reality is very stark. Studies show that a single night of poor sleep amplifies amygdala reactivity by up to 60%.
Wait, 60%?
Yes. The amygdala is part of that limbic system threat detection network we talk about.
Right.
When you don't sleep, the prefrontal cortex loses its regulatory grip on the amygdala.
60% from one bad night. So my brain's threat detection center is essentially functioning at more than 1.5 times its normal sensitivity.
Right.
It is like turning the volume knob on a smoke detector up so high that it goes off when someone strikes a match 3 houses away.
Exactly. So if your amygdala is 60% more reactive, no amount of affect labeling is going to save you when that passive-aggressive email comes in. You are already primed for war before you even open your inbox.
The physical deficit guarantees a catastrophic prediction.
It does.
Yeah.
And it's not just sleep. Movement plays a massive role in the body budget. The text points out that even a mere 20-minute walk shifts your cortisol and adrenaline levels in ways that actively calm that threat detection system.
Because when we get stressed, the body releases those chemicals to prepare us to physically fight or run away, right?
Yes.
If we just sit at our desks staring at the screen, those chemicals just sit in our system, keeping the alarm bells ringing. A 20-minute walk literally metabolizes the stress hormones that are forcing the brain into a state of false prediction.
It clears the chemical static.
Yeah.
And then there's breathing,
Breathe.
which again sounds like the most cliche advice in the world, but the biological mechanism behind it is profound. We have an accelerator and a brake in our nervous system.
Oh.
The in-breath activates the sympathetic nervous system, which is the accelerator. The out-breath activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the body's natural brake.
So when we panic or get angry, we instinctively take short, sharp breaths in. We are continuously hitting the accelerator, flooding the engine with gas.
But the text outlines a specific physiological hack based on how the vagus nerve monitors our breathing, extending your exhale to be twice as long as your inhale for just 2 minutes.
Just 2 minutes.
That's it. And this isn't just taking a deep breath, which often just means breathing more shallowly into the chest. The extended out-breath mechanically signals the vagus nerve that you are safe.
It forces the parasympathetic nervous system online.
Yes, it slows the heart rate and drops blood pressure. It can shift your physiological state and rewrite the brain's prediction algorithm faster than almost any cognitive technique.
2 minutes of exhaling longer than you inhale. It's like a manual override switch for the nervous system.
And going back to our Stoic friends, the text notes that they understood this physical foundation perfectly. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, practiced something called premeditatio malorum.
The premeditation of adversity, I've heard of that. But it's usually taught purely as a mental exercise, right? Imagining the worst-case scenario, like losing your wealth or facing exile, so you aren't surprised by it. How does that tie into the body budget?
It is often taught just as a mental rehearsal, but the text frames it as a much more holistic practice. Marcus Aurelius prepared his mind and his body before difficulty arrived.
Oh, I see.
He slept on the floor, he ate simple food, he subjected himself to the elements. He didn't just wait to respond when things went wrong. He practiced proactive resource management.
You don't wait until the middle of a complex, difficult piano concerto to start tuning the piano.
Exactly. You maintain the instrument beforehand so that when the music demands something incredibly difficult, the instrument is ready to perform.
You fill the body budget before the triggers happen. You sleep, you move, you breathe, so that the battery is at 100% when life inevitably demands that you use that heavy cognitive software we talked about earlier.
Yes.
The physical architecture supports the narrative architecture, which is enabled by the linguistic architecture. They are entirely interdependent.
That is the complete picture. The 3 layers form a single structure. But of course, life doesn't happen in isolated, theoretical layers.
No, it definitely doesn't.
When that chest-tightening moment hits, it hits all at once, in real time.
Okay, so how do we synthesize all of this? Let's run a full simulation. Let's walk through what this actually looks like in practice when all 3 layers are working together during a real-world conflict.
All right. The text provides a remarkably clear walkthrough for this exact synthesis. Let's take the scenario of getting undermined in a meeting. Your colleague takes credit for a project you spearheaded.
Oh, that's a tough one.
The event happens, the chest tightens,
Yeah.
the jaw locks. What is the very first move?
According to the architecture, before any reaction fires, before I say a word or send a Slack message, I have to pause.
The pause. The text says even 3 seconds is enough to interrupt the automatic prediction. In those 3 seconds, you apply the linguistic layer. You name what you are feeling, not with a blunt instrument, but with a scalpel. You find the granular label.
Okay, so I am not just furious. I am feeling publicly undermined and socially exposed in front of leadership.
Excellent. High emotional granularity. By finding those specific words, you have just sent a biological signal that re-engages the prefrontal cortex.
The task manager is open.
The task manager is open. The limbic alarm is softening because the threat has been identified. Now that reason is back online, and you aren't purely reacting out of survival instinct, you move to the second step, the examination.
This is the narrative layer. I have to look at the story my brain instantly defaulted to when my colleague took credit.
And what is that default story?
The default story is, he is actively trying to sabotage my career. He thinks I'm weak, and if I don't attack him right now, leadership will think I'm useless.
And with the prefrontal cortex engaged, you interrogate that story. You ask the reappraisal questions. Is that the only story available?
Right.
Is it possible he misspoke in the heat of the moment? Is it possible he genuinely forgot which parts I handled because we collaborated so closely?
Is it possible he's just incredibly insecure and trying to impress the boss, and it actually has nothing to do with me?
Exactly. You don't have to decide which story is the absolute truth in that split second. Simply acknowledging that alternative stories exist shatters the illusion that your anger is the only valid reality.
I am untethering the massive emotional weight from the event. I'm realizing that my anger is tied to my interpretation of what he did, not what he actually did.
And finally, before you decide how to respond, you do the physical check-in. You assess the body budget.
Right. I ask myself, Am I running on a massive deficit today? Did I sleep 4 hours last night because I was prepping for this exact meeting?
Have I had nothing but iced coffee and stress since 7 a.m.?
Yeah, exactly. And if the answer is yes, you realize that your physical exhaustion is artificially amplifying the emotional threat. You realize the system is running on low fuel, which means you shouldn't trust the catastrophic predictions it is currently generating.
Your brain is telling you to burn the office down because it's tired.
Wow.
Armed with all of that data, the precise linguistic label, the alternative narrative stories, and the awareness of your physical deficit, you act accordingly. You choose your response.
Maybe you decide to address it calmly with him in private tomorrow after you've slept. You have achieved emotional agency.
That's it.
So what does this all mean? When you zoom out and look at this entire sequence, it really hits home that this isn't about turning into a robot.
Not at all.
It's not about becoming numb or pretending you don't feel angry when someone wrongs you. It's about rescuing yourself. It rescues you from being at the absolute mercy of automatic prehistoric responses that you didn't choose, and more importantly, that you don't endorse as the person you actually want to be.
It is the difference between being a passenger and being the driver. The text leaves us with a final quote from Marcus Aurelius that summarizes this entire paradigm shift beautifully.
Let's hear it.
You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength.
That's powerful.
For 2,000 years, that sounded like a beautiful poetic metaphor for resilience. But what modern neuroscience now confirms through Lisa Feldman Barrett's work on predictive coding is that this power isn't just a metaphor. It is literal, physical architecture.
The brain can physically be trained to predict differently. We can rewrite the autocorrect dictionary.
We can. It can be trained to label more precisely. It can be trained to interrogate its own stories. It can be trained to recover more quickly by maintaining the body budget.
Oh.
But, and this is the crucial final point of the text, that architecture does not build itself overnight.
Right. It is a practice.
It is a practice. It is not a final destination you arrive at, and it is not a permanent personality type that you are either lucky enough to have or doomed to lack. It is a daily, repeatable practice of proactive maintenance and real-time intervention.
Which brings us to the final challenge. The source text issues a direct challenge to the reader, and I want to relay that challenge directly to you listening right now.
Yes.
You do not have to master this entire multi-layered system today, but the challenge is this. Take just one of these tools we've explored in this deep dive and apply it before tomorrow evening. Just one.
It could be finding a specific, granular label the next time you feel a vague sense of stress.
It could be pausing to ask a reappraisal question about a frustrating text message.
Or it could just be doing 2 minutes of extended exhales when you feel overwhelmed at your desk.
Just one tool applied once, because
Okay.
that, block by block, moment by moment, is how the architecture actually changes.
And as we close this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over on your own.
Oh, and
It builds on Barrett's foundational theory that our emotions are entirely built on predictions drawn from our past experiences. If our brains are constantly simulating our present reality by looking backward at our past data, how much of our present emotional reality is just us unconsciously repeating a past we haven't resolved?
Wow. That is a heavy question. If we are just projecting old data onto new situations, we might be fighting wars that ended years ago.
Exactly. When we do the hard work of updating our emotional architecture, when we label the feeling accurately, when we interrogate the default story, and when we manage the body budget, are we merely changing how we feel about a minor inconvenience today? Or are we, in a very real biological sense, finally freeing ourselves from the ghosts of our past?
That's incredible.
Are we finally teaching the brain that the old threats are gone and a completely new future is possible?
That is something to think about the next time your chest tightens and your jaw locks. You aren't just reacting to a text message or a comment in a meeting, you're confronting a ghost in the machine. And now you have the architecture to build a completely different outcome.
The tools are in your hands.